Poor people can't handle money seems to be the prevailing sentiment, almost a truism. After all, if they knew how to manage money, how could they be poor in the first place? They must spend it on fast food and soda instead of fresh fruit and books. Well, to help, we've rigged up a myriad of ingenious assistance programs with reams of paperwork, registration systems, an army of inspectors, all revolving around the biblical principle that those unwilling to work will not get to eat. Thessalonians. In recent years, government assistance has become increasingly anchored in employment, with recipients required to apply for jobs, enroll in return-to-work programs, and do mandatory volunteer work. Touted as a shift from welfare to workfare, the underlying message is clear. Free money makes people lazy. Well, London, May of 2009, an experiment was underway with 13 homeless men. Some have been sleeping on the cold pavement of the Square Mile, Europe's financial center, for going on 40 years. Between the police expenses, court costs, and social services, these 13 troublemakers have racked up a bill estimated at £400,000, $650,000 per year. The strain on city services and local charities is too great for things to go on this way. So Broadway, a London-based aid organization, has made a radical decision. From now on, the city's 13 consummate drifters will be getting VIP treatment. It's adios to the daily helpings of food stamps, soup kitchens, and shelters. They're getting a drastic and instantaneous bailout. From now on, these rough sleepers will receive free money. To be exact, they're getting £3,000 in spending money, and they don't have to do a thing in return. How they spend it is up to them. They can opt to make use of an advisor if they'd like, or not. There are no strings attached, no questions to trip them up. The only thing they're asked is, what do you think you need? I didn't have enormous expectations, one social worker later recalled. But the drifters' desires proved eminently modest. A telephone, a dictionary, a hearing aid. Each had his own ideas about what he needed. In fact, most were downright thrifty. After 1 year, they had spent an average of just £800. Take Simon, who had been strung out on heroin for 20 years. The money turned his life around. He got clean and started taking gardening classes. For some reason, for the first time in my life, everything just clicked, he said later. I'm starting to look after myself, wash and shave, and I'm thinking of going back home. I got 2 kids. Well, 1.5 years after the experiment began, 17 of these 13 rough sleepers had a roof over their heads. 2 more were about to move into their own apartments. All 13 had taken critical steps towards solvency and personal growth. They were enrolled in classes, learning to cook, going through rehab, visiting their families, and making plans for the future. After decades of fruitless pushing, pulling, pampering, penalizing, prosecuting, and protecting, 9 notorious vagrants had finally been brought in from the streets. The cost? About £50,000 a year, including the social workers' wages. In other words, not only did the project help 13 people, it also cut costs considerably. Even The Economist had to conclude that, quote, the most efficient way to spend money on the homeless might be to give it to them. In Liberia, an experiment was conducted to see what would happen if you gave $200 to the shiftiest of the poor, alcoholics, addicts, and petty criminals were rounded up from the slums. 3 years later, what had they spent the money on? Food, clothing, medicine, and small businesses. One searcher wondered, if these men didn't throw away free money, who would? Yet the lazy poor people argument is trotted out time and again. The very persistence of this view has compelled scientists to investigate whether it's true. A few years ago, the prestigious medical journal, The Lancet, summed up its findings. When the poor receive no strings cash, they tend to work harder. The big reason poor people are poor, notes economist Charles Kenny, is that they don't have enough money. And it shouldn't come as a huge surprise that giving them money is a great way to reduce that problem.